Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Our topic is for today is establishing validity and reliability of tests. Next slide, please. Validity of a test. Validity in Russian 2000 is concerned whether the information obtained from an assessment permits the teacher to make a correct decision about the student's learning. This means that the appropriateness of score-based inferences of decisions made as based on the student's test results. It is the extent to which a test measures what it is supposed to measure. When the assessment tool provides information that is relevant to the learning objectives, it is it was intended to help. It makes the interpretation of the test result invalid. The teachers must select and use procedures or performance criteria and settings to all forms of assessment. Most especially performance based assessment so that fairness to all students is maintained, assessing students' performance on the basis of personal characteristics rather than on the performance of the students lowers the validity of the assessment. Next slide, please. There are three types of validity. First, we have content validity, second, criterion validity, and the third is construct validity. First, content validity is a type of validation that refers to the relationship between a test and the instructional objectives or establishes content so that the test measures what it is supposed to measure. There are things to remember about validity. There are A, B, and C. The first is the evidence of the content validity of a test is found on the table of specification. It is the TOS. B, this is the most important type of validity for a classroom teacher. So yeah, letter C, there is no coefficient for content validity. It is determined by experts judgmentally, not empirically. Next slide, please. So, the second type of um, validity is content validity. No, criterion related validity. A type of validation that refers to the extent to which scores from a test relate to the theoretically similar measures. It is measure of how accurately a student's current test score can be used to estimate a score on a criterion measure. Like performances in courses, classes or another measurement instrument. For example, the classroom reading grades should indicate similar levels of performance as standardized reading test scores. A, concurrent validity. The criterion and the predictor data are collected at the same time. Kaning nga type nga validity is appropriate for tests, designed to assess the students' current criterion and status or when you want to diagnose student status. So it is good diagnostic screening test. It is established by correlating the criterion of the predictor using person product correlation, coefficient, and other statistical tools correlation. Next slide, please. B, predictive validity. This type of validation that refers to the measure of extent to which a student's current test results can be used to estimate accurately the outcome of the student's performance at later time. It is appropriate for test designs to assess students' future status, or on a criterion. Predictive validity is also very important in psychological testing. Like if the psychologists want to predict responses, behaviors, or outcomes, performances, and others. So these scores will be used in the assessment process. So regression analysis can be used to predict the criterion of a single predictor or multiple predictors. So next slide, please. So the third validity, a type of validity is construct validity. So this type of validation that refers the measure of the extent to which a test measures a theoretical and unobservable variable qualities such as intelligence and math achievements or performance anxiety and the like over a period of time on the basis of gathering evidences. So it is established through the intensive study of the test or measurement instrument using convergent or divergent validation and factor analysis. So it is also a type of construct validation wherein a test has a high correlation with another test that measures the same construct. So next slide please. So B is the divergent validity is a type of construct validation wherein a test has low correlation with a test that measures a different construct. So in this case, a high validity occurs only when there is a low correlation coefficient between the test that measures different traits. So C, factor analysis, is another method of assessing the construct validity of a test using complex statistical procedures or conducted with different procedures. So there are other ways of assessing construct validity like test internal consistency, development, change, and experimental intervention. So next slide please. So there are four important things to remember about validity. Validity. So first is validity refers to the decisions we make and not to the test itself or to the measurement. So the decisions we make. So these are this one is the first important thing. So the second is like reliability. Validity is not an all or nothing concept. It is never totally absent or absolutely perfect. So third is the validity estimate, called the validity coefficient, refers to a specific type of validity. So it ranges between 0 and 1. So number 4, the fourth important things to remember is to about validity is validity can never be finally determined, so it is specific to each administration of the test. So next slide please. Factors affecting the validity of a test item. So first, this affect the test itself. So second, the administration and scoring of a test. So third is the personal factors influencing how students respond to the test. So this factor also affects the students' response to the test, influencing how student aw kanang mo response baron nga mao ni maka-affect. Then number four is validity is always specific to a particular group. So next slide please. So there are 9 reasons that reduce the validity of the test item. First, poorly constructed test item. So kini nga validity of type of the test is kanang wala siya natarong o construct. Then the second is unclear direction. So the direction itself is not really clear to the students to understand. So third is ambiguous test items. So fourth is too difficult vocabulary. So these are the words wherein it is too difficult to understand the words like so kanang so layo na siya kayo sa certain thing. So 6 is an inadequate time limit. So 7 is an appropriate level of difficulty. And 8 is an intended clues. And a 9 is improper arrangement of test items. So wala siya natarong og arrange ang test items. So next slide please.
So the next is a validity coefficient. So the validity coefficient is the computed value of the R in the theory. The validity coefficient has values like the correlation that ranges from 0 to 1. In practice, most of the validity scores are usually small and they range from 0.3 to 0.5, and few exceed to 0.60 or 0.7. Hence, there is a lot of improvement in most of our psychological measurement. Another way of interpreting the findings is to consider the squared correlation coefficient, or the R. This is called coefficient of determination. Coefficient of determination uh, the coefficient of determination indicates how much variation in the criterion can be quantified for by the p-detector or a teacher test. Example, if the computed value of negative 0.75, the coefficient of determination is 0.75 or 0.5625, or we can say that 56.25% of the variance in the student performance can be attributed to the test of 43.75% of the student performance cannot be attributed to the test result. Next slide, please. Example. Teacher Benjamin James develops a 45-item test and he wants to determine if his test is valid. He takes another test that is already acknowledged for its validity and uses it as criterion. He conducted these two sets of tests to his 15 students. The following table shows the results of the two tests. Is the test developed by Mr. Benjamin James valid? Find the validity coefficient. Find the validity coefficient using the person or R and the coefficient of determination. Next slide, please. So here are the example. As you can see in the first table, the teacher Benjamin James text is the X is 12, 22, 23, 25, 28, 30, 32, 33, 42, 41, 37, 26, and so on. And the summation is equal to 465. And the criterion test, or the Y, is 16, 25, 31, 25, 29, 28, 35, 40, and so on. Then the total of the summation of Y is equal to 508. So xy, to get xy, we have to multiply 12 times 16. If 12 times 16 is equal to 192, then 22 times 25 is equal to 550. 23 times 31 is equal to 713. So, and so on and so on. So to get x squared, we have to to get x word. Yeah, like magkuan ka, i-times mo siya. 12 times 12 is equal to 144. Diha man siya makuha. O prihar sad sa y squared. Inga na siya pagkuha. Then the summation of x squared is equal to 15,000. 15, then 487. Then the summation of the summation of y squared is equal to 18 dion 162. So here are the formula. So the formula in solving the validity coefficient is correlation coefficient, or Rxy, is equal to n, which is the total number of cases, times the summation of x and y minus the summation of x times summation of y over the square root of open bracket and times the summation of x squared minus the squared of the summation of x, then close bracket times open bracket and times the summation of y squared minus the square root of summation of y, then close bracket. So the summation of xy is equal to 15, then minus 16 702. So mao ni siya ang summation of x and y, then minus summation of x, then summation of y. Ang summation of x kay 465 and the summation of y is equal to 508. So mao na siya na ay 465 o 508 over sundo na natong formula. So para makuha na to ang answer. So ang answer dayon ani kay nara sa ubod. Ano siya? So the coefficient of determination is equal to 0.94 squared. Then mo na siyang i-times. So equals to 88.36%. So next slide please. Then the reliability of test. So reliability refers to the consistency with which it yields the same rank for individuals who take the test more than once. So, Kovizin and Boric, 2007. That is how consistent test result or other assessment result from one measurement to another. We can say that a test is reliable when it can be used to predict practically the same scores when tests administered twice to the same group of students and with a reliability index of 0.60 or above. So the reliability of a test can be determined by means of percent product, correlation coefficient, Sperman-Brown formula, and Kuder-Richardson formulas. Next slide, please. So, factors of affecting reliability of a test. 1. Length of the test. 2. Moderate item difficulty. 3. Objective scoring. And 4. Heterogeneity of the student group. Last, limited time. Next slide, please. 4 methods of establishing reliability of a test. The first is test-retest method, a type of reliability determined by administering the same test twice to the same group of students with any time interval between the tests. The result of the test scores are correlated using the person-product correlation coefficient or R, and this correlation coefficient provides a measure of stability indicates how stable the result over a period of time. So, mauna siya ang formula. So, the summation of x and y, or r xy is, or n, which is the total number of scores, times the summation of x and y minus the summation of x times the summation of y over open bracket, then n times the summation of x squared minus the summation of x squared dayon close bracket, then open bracket na sad, then n, then times the summation of y squared dayon minus the summation of y squared dayon close bracket. Next slide please. So, and the second is equivalent form. So equivalent form, it is a type of reliability determined by administering two different but equivalent forms of the test, also called parallel or alternate forms to the same group of students in close succession. The equivalent forms are constructed in the same set of specifications that is similar in content, type of items, and difficulty. The result of the test scores are correlated using the person-product correlation coefficient or R, and this correlation coefficient provides a measure of the degree to which generalization about the performance of the students from one assessment to another assessment is justified. It measures the equivalence of the test. So 3. Split half method. So administrator test once and score to equivalent halves of the test. To spell the test into halves that are equivalent, the usual procedure is to score the even numbered and the odd numbered test item scores are correlated. Using the Spearman-Brown formula, and this correlation coefficient provides a measure of internal consistency. It indicates the degree to which consistent results are obtained from two halves of the test. So, mauna siya ang formula. R where root is equal to reliability of the original test, then over the rho. When we say rho, reliability of the correlation of odd and even items. So the details of this formula will be discussed in later lessons. So next slide please. So Kudur Richardson's formula. Administer the test once, score the total test, and apply the Richardson formula. The Richardson 20 formula is applicable only in situations where students' responses are scored dichotomously, and therefore is most useful with traditional test items that are scored as right or wrong, true or false, and yes or no type. KR20 formula estimates of reliability provide information whether the degree to which the items in the test measure is of the same characteristic. It is an assumption that all items are equal in difficulty. So another formula for testing the internal consistency of a test in the KR, the formula which is not limited to test items that are scored dichotomously. So next slide please. So reliability coefficient. So what is reliability coefficient? It is a measure of the amount of error associated with the test scores. So the description of reliability coefficient. The range of the reliability coefficient is from 0 to 1.0. The acceptable range value kay 0.60 or higher. The higher the value of the reliability coefficient, the more reliable the overall test scores. So higher reliability indicates that the test item measure the same thing. Example, knowledge of solving number problem in algebra subjects. So, the first, number one, person, product, moment, correlation coefficient, or RXY. So, the formula is RXY is equal to N, which is the total number of cases, times the summation of X and Y, minus the summation of X times the summation of Y, over the summation of X and the over and the times the summation of X squared minus the summation of X squared, then close bracket, then open bracket, then n the summation of Y squared minus the summation of Y squared, then close bracket. So the next is the formulation of Spearman-Brown formula is root is equal to reliability of the original test, muna siya ang 2 or root, muna siya sa babaw. Then, ang the over, the 1 plus Ru kay reliability of the correlation of odd and even items. So the KR20 and KR21 formulas, the KR20 formula is also known as the Coder-Richardson formula. So KR20 is equal to K over K minus 1, dayon 1 minus the summation of PQ over S squared. Then, so ang K dira kay mao na siya ang number of items. Then, ang diri kay ang P sa summation sa P o Q kay mao na siya ang preparation of the students who got the item correctly index of difficulty. So, ang Q kay mao na siya ang 1 minus P. So, ang X squared dira kay nagpakita na siya og variance of the total score. So, ang KR21 is equal to K, which is the number of items, over K minus 1, then 1 minus ang X dira kay mo na siya ang mean value times K minus X over KS squared. So, ang S squared yapon, variance of the total score. So, the next.
So, interpreting reliability coefficient. First, the group variability will affect the size of reliability coefficient. Higher coefficient result from heterogeneous groups than from the homogeneous groups. As group variability increases, reliability goes up. The second is scoring reliability. Limit test score reliability. If tests are scored unreliable, error is introduced. This will limit the reliability of the test scores. Number 3, test length affects test score reliability. As the length increases, the test reliability tends to go up. And the fourth, item difficulty affects test score reliability. As test items become very easy or very hard, the test reliability goes down. Next slide, please. So we have the level of reliability coefficient. So the interpretation is if the reliability coefficient above 0.90 is, the interpretation here is the excellent reliability. Then if 0.81 to 0.90 is very good for a classroom test. Next is if 0.71 to 0.80, the interpretation of this is good for a classroom test. There are probably few items need to be improved. And 0.61 to 0.70, somewhat low. The test needs to be supplemented by other measures or more tests to determine grades. So if 0.51 to 0.60, the suggest need for revision of tests unless it is quite short, 10 or fewer items. So need to be supplemented by other measures, more tests for grading. If 0.50 and below, questionable reliability, this test should not contribute heavily to the course grade and it needs revision. Next slide, please. So let us discuss the step in solving the reliability coefficient using the different methods of establishing the validity and reliability of the given test using the different examples. So we have the example 1 here. So Prof. Henry Joel conducted a test to his 10 students in elementary statistics class twice after 1 day interval. The test given after 1 day is exactly the same test given the first time. Scores below were gathered in the first test and second test using test-retest method is the best reliable. Show the complete solution. So we have the students, we have the 10 students, then the FT which first test is 36, 26, 38, 15, 17, 28, 32, 35, 12, 35. Then the ST here is 38, 34, 38, 27, 25, 26, 35, 36, 19, 38. So, using the person R formula, find the summation of x, summation of y, summation of xy, summation of x squared, and summation of y squared. Second slide, please. Next slide, please, I mean. So, we have here the solution. So, our n here is 10. So, we the ft is our x, then copy the katong 36, 26, and so on. Then our st here is 38, 34, 38, and so on. So how to get the xy? So the we multiply the x, the 36 the x, and times y is the 38. So our result is 1368. Then to find the x squared here is ikaduhaon ni siya ang x i-times ang 36 times 36. So ang result kay 1296. Then to find the y squared is mao ra gyapon ang kuhaon i-times gihapon ang kaduha og times ang y. Then 38 times 38 is equal to 1444. So pareha ra gyapon na siya og paagi usa hantod siya maabot siya sa 10 nga makuha ang iyahang xy, x squared, and y squared. So our summation of, so we nakuha na nato ang result sa summation of x, summation of y, summation of xy, then a summation of x squared, and summation of y squared. So our in n here is 10. The summation of x is 274, because to get the summation of x plus the 10 numbers of x to get the 274, and sa y gyapon plus gyapon hantod sa 1 to 10 ang iyang number sa y, then ang result ana niya kay mo ni siya 316. Then sa xy is 9192. Then sa x squared plus gihapon na nimo sa 1296 hantod sa 1225. Then the result is 8332. Then the y squared is mao gyapon 10,400. So the formula is rxy equals n summation of xy minus summation of x and summation times summation of y over square root of open bracket and summation of x squared minus summation of x summation of x squared close bracket open bracket and square root summation of y squared minus summation of y squared is squared in close bracket. Then the next is continue gyapon down. So r xy equals, so ang kuha sa n 10. Then the summation of xy kay find the summation of xy mao na siya sa babaw 9192 minus 274. Then and the summation of y is 316 over square root of the n is 10, copy the 10, then the summation of x squared, copy the 8332 minus the summation of x squared is 274 squared, close bracket, then open bracket 10, copy the 10, then the summation of x squared is 10,400 minus 316 squared. Then our result and for this to add is 0.91. So to go back the level of reliability coefficient, the result is naa siya na belong sa excellent. Above 0.90 is the excellent excellent of reliability kay 0.91 man, so naa siya dako yang excellent reliability. So the analysis for this is the reliability coefficient using the person R equals 0.91 means that it has a very high reliability. The scores of the 10 students conducted twice with 1 day interval are consistent. Hence, the test has a very high reliability. So, next slide please. So, another example for this is proof. Vency Glenn conducted a test to his 10 students in his biology class. 2 times after 1 week interval, the test given after 1 week is the parallel form of the test during the test the first time of the test was conducted. Scores below were gathered in the first test and the second test or parallel test. Using equivalent of parallel form method is the test reliable. Show the complete solution using the person R formula. So, person R gapon ang atong gamiton. So, we have here the student. So, 1 to student 10 gihapon siya. Then, we have the FT and the PT. So, the FT 12, 20, 19, 17, 25, 22, 15, 16, 23, 21. And the PT 20, 22, 23, 20, 25, 20, 19, 18, 25, 24. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. So, we are using the person R formula. So, find the x squared, xy, summation of x, summation of y, summation of xy, and summation of x squared and y squared. So, para gyapon sa first example mo, inato gyapon ang iyahang gamiton na to. So, student 1 to 10. Well, we the n, our n is 10. Then ft is the x. So we have the 12, 20, 19, so on. Then the pt 20, 22, 23, and so on. Then the xy 20, x squared and y squared. So, iba naman taon sa pagkuha sa xy no. Sabotable raman kay, di ba, ang xy i-times ra siya ang 12 og 20. So, ang result niya kay 240. Then, ang x squared, so, ang kaning sa ft, kay x man siya, so, kaduhaon na to 12 times 12. So, ang equals niya kay 144. Then, sa y, kaduhaon gyapon 20 times 20. So, 400. And, mara gyapon na ang pamagi sa pagkuha sa hantod sa maabot na ta sa student 10. So rxy equals n x summation of xy minus summation of x summation of y over the square root of n summation of x squared minus summation of x squared close bracket open bracket and summation of y squared minus summation of y squared close bracket. So rxy equals the n is 10. Then the summation of xy, copy the 4174 minus the summation of x is 190. Then times of 216. Then over square root of close bracket 10. Then times 3754 minus 190 squared. Then close bracket open bracket 10. Then times of 4,724 minus 216 is squared close bracket. So the result is the of rxy equals 0.76. So go back to the level of reliability of coefficient. So ang interpretation niya kay nakuan man siya ang iyang result kay 0.76. So nasud siya sa ikatulo. Mo ni siya sa good for classroom test. There are probably few items needs to be improved. So ikatulo siya. So analysis for this is the reliability coefficient using the person R 0.76 means that it has a high reliability. The scores of the 10 students conducted twice with 1 week interval are consistent, hence the test has a high reliability. Next slide, please. So, another example for this is proof Glenn Lord conducted a test to his 10 students of his in his chemistry class. The test was given only was the scores of the students in odd and even items below were gathered odd items and even items. Using split half method is the test reliable. Show the complete solution. So the odd here is 50, 19, 20, 25, 20, 18, 19, 26, 20, 18. Then the even is 20, 17, 24, 21, 23, 22, 25, 24, 18, 17. So using the formula of person R, Rxy equals 2R. What's this? What's di ko kaklaro. 2R 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 wait sa Saan na 2R wait sabi ko ano 2R sorry ha kay wa ko kaklaro 2R XY to find the reliability of the whole test. Find the summation of x, summation of y, summation of xy, summation of x squared, and summation of y squared to solve the reliability of the odd and even test item. So, ang mora gyapon ang pag-solve na to. Ang odd kay x gyapon, then ang even kay y. Then ang xy, x squared and y squared. So, ang odd na to copy, then ang even copy hantod sa 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. So, 10 gihapon siya. So, ang xy times gihapon nimo ang 15 times 20. So, ang result is 300. Then, the x squared is 15 times 15 equals 225. Then, the even is 20 times 20 equals 400 and so on. So, the summation of x is 200. Kay plus naman na, di parehong sa kwan kay 10. Then, plus gapon ang x. Summation of x is 200. Then, summation of y is 211. Summation of xy is 4,249. Then, the summation of x squared is 4,096. Then, summation of y squared is 4,533. Next slide, please. So, find the ability of the original test using the formula. So, copy our person R formula is Rxy equals n summation of xy minus summation of x and summation of y over square root of close bracket and summation of x squared minus summation of x is squared close bracket minus open bracket and summation of y squared minus summation of y is squared close bracket. So copy the our con is 10. Then the summation of xy is 4,249. Copy the summation of x 200. Copy the summation of y is 211 over square root of close bracket 10. Then 4,096 minus 2,000 is squared, close bracket, open bracket, 10. Then 4,533 minus 211 squared. Then our result is 0.33. So, find the 0.33 of the to the level of reliability coefficient is it belongs to the 0.33. The last column. So, questionable reliability that this test should not contribute heavily to the course grade and it needs revision. So, the another sorry, the other formula the solution of this is ROT my equals 2 ROT over 1 plus ROT, then so ROT equals 2 given na ang 2, then copy the ROT is 0.33 over 1 plus ROT. So copy the 0.33, then ROT equals times ang 2 times 0.33 is equal to 0.66 over 1 plus 0.33 is 1.33. Then so ROT of here is 0.50. So analysis the reliability coefficient using Brown formula is 0.50, which is questionable reliability. Hence, the test item should be revised. Next slide, please. So, we have here of another example. Miss Watt administered a 40-item test is English for her grade 4 pupils in Malanao. A grade 6 Malanao Elementary School. Below are the scores of 15 pupils. Find the reliability using the Codier-Richardson formula. So, we have the student 1 to 15. Then, we have the score is 16, 25, 35, 39, 25, 18, 19, 22, 33, 36, 20, 17, 26, 35, and 39. Next slide, please. So, solve the mean division of the score using the table below. So, to find the x squared times the kaduhaon nimong times ang x. So, 16 times 16 is equal to 256. 25 times 25 is 625. 35 times 35 equals 1,225. Then, 39 times 39 equals 1,521. And so on. Hanto na parehara na gyapon 25 times and mo kaduha to get the our x squared. So, our n here is 15. Then, the summation of x is 405. Kay gi-plus man na to tanan iyahang mga number sa kuan. Sa iyahang given nga x. Then, the x squared is 11,917. Next slide, please.
So to continue, looking for the s squared, which is the variance of the total score, the formula is n, open parenthesis, summation of x squared minus summation of x raised to the second power over n, open parenthesis, n minus 1, close parenthesis. So we need to distribute, since n is 15, we need to put here 15, then open parenthesis, summation of x squared is 11,917 minus the summation of x raised to the second power, which is 405 over 15, the n, and n minus 1, which is 14. After that, after multiplying 15 times 11,917, we have 178,755 minus the square root of 405, which is 164,025 over the multiplication of 15 times 14, which is the 210. And and 178,755 minus 164,025 is equal to 14,730 over 210. So in dividing it, we will have the variance of the total score, or the S squared, to equal to 70.14. We can see here the 70.14. Then in computing the mean, we have the summation of x over n. So our summation of x, which is 404, and then the n is 15, divided is equal to 27. So we have our mean, which is 27. Solve for the reliability coefficient using the Cotter-Richardson formula is KR21 equal to K over K minus 1, bracket, open bracket, 1 minus the summation of x, open parenthesis, of K minus summation of x, close parenthesis, over ks squared, then close bracket. So when we distribute, k is is equal to 40 over 40 minus 1, which is k minus 1. Then open bracket, 1 minus 27, open parenthesis, 40, which is the k, the number of items, minus 27, the summation of x, over 40, open parenthesis, 70.14, which is the ks squared. Yeah, close bracket. Yeah, equals to 40 divided by 39, open bracket, 1 minus 27 times 13 over 40, open parenthesis, 70.14, then close bracket. So we have 1.03 when we divide 40 divide 39. So open bracket, we have 1 minus 351 over 2805.60, close bracket. So 1.03 times 1 minus 0.1251 is equal to 0.8749. So we need to multiply the 1.3 to 0.8749. So the equals KR21 is equal to 0.90. So it falls in, or the analysis, the reliability of coefficient using KR21 formula is 0.90, which means the test has a very good reliability, meaning the test is very good for a classroom test. So we have here the formula of KR20, which is the Cotter-Richardson formula. K over K minus 1, open bracket, 1 minus summation of difficulty index over s squared, and then close bracket. So next slide please. So in the next slide, here is the steps in solving the reliability of coefficient using KR20. So first, solve the difficulty index of each item, which is the P. Solve the value of Q in each item. Find the product of P and Q columns. Find the summation of PQ. Solve the variance of the scores. And last, solve the reliability of coefficient using KR20 formula. So please, next slide, please. Next slide, please. So the first thing to do is to solve the difficulty index in each item and the variance of the total scores. So P is equal to N, the small n, where it represents number of students got the correct answer in each item. Well, the N, over the N, the big N, which means number of students who answered each item. The Q is equal to 1 minus P. So here in the example 5, Mr. Mark Anthony administered a 20-item true or false test for his English 4 class. Below are the scores of 40 students. Find the reliability coefficient using the KR20 formula and interpret the computed value. Solve also the coefficient of the determination. So here in the table, you can see the item number, which is 1, 1, 2, 3, 4. That column is the number item. And the X, 25, the second column. The P, the third column. Fourth column is the Q. And the fifth column is the PQ. And the sixth column is the X squared. You can see there. And please, next slide. This is the continuation of the table until 20, which is the number of items. Here in the P of item 1, we have 25 correct answer. So over 40, the number of students who answered each item. So when we distribute it, we have this 25 number of students got a correct answer and 40 who answered each item. So if we divide it, we will have 0.625. Q of item 1 is equal to 1 minus 0.625, which will be the answer is 0.375. PQ of item 1 is equal to 0.625 and multiply by 0.375, which will be equal to 0.234375. So next slide, please. Here, the P of item 1, since the P of item 1 is 0.23, PQ of item 1 rather is 0.234375, and there's a note here that note to continue the same procedure up to the last item. Solve for the variance of the scores. So here we can see the S squared, which is the variance of the total score, is equal to N, the summation of X squared minus open parenthesis of the summation of X raised to the second power over N open parenthesis of N minus 1. So which means the N number of items, yeah, the summation of X squared, when we distribute it, we will have 20 as our N. The summation of X squared, 17,698 minus 578, the summation of X, which is raised to the second power, over 20, the N, multiplied by the N minus 1, which is 19. So 20, the N here, multiplied by the summation of X squared, which is the answer is 353,960 minus the summation of X raised to the second power, which is the answer is 33,408,000 yeah, that one, 420 over 880, which is 20 multiplied by 19. When we multiply, it will result to 1987 over 380. So in the next slide, please, next slide to continue. So here, In the next slide, we have the variance of the total score S squared is equal to 52.3053, and we rounded it off as variance of the total score S squared is equal to 52.3. And then to solve the reliability of coefficient using the KR20 formula, we have the formula KR20 over K minus 1, open bracket, minus 1, the summation of PQ over S squared, and close bracket. And then KR20 is equal to 20, which is the K, which is the number of items, over the number of items minus 1. Then open bracket, minus 1, the summation of the PQ, which is 3.38875, over S squared, which is the 52.31, and then close bracket. So when we divided 3.8, which is the summation of PQ and S squared, it will be result into 0.06478. So we put 20 over 19. We came up 19 to 20 minus 1, which is the K minus 1. And then open parenthesis, 1 minus 0.06478. Asa ito nangita sa 0.06478 kay diri sa summation of PQ and S squared. And then after that, we have the 20, still the key, K, and then over the K minus 1, which is 19. Yan, nag-minus na ta sa 1 minus 0.06478, which is, the answer is 0.93522. And then we divide 20 over 19. The result is 1.05263 multiplied by 0.93522 is equal to 0.9844. So the KR20 is 0.94. The interpretation, the reliability of coefficient using the KR20, which is the 0.98, means that it has a very high reliability or excellent reliability. Coefficient of determination is equal to 0.98 squared. So when we squared it, we will get 0.960.4, which is the 96.4%. So the interpretation, the 96.04% of the variance in the student's performance can be attributed to the test. So that would be all our reporting for the application. We will be sending it in our GC. Thank you.